I'm Lani Susan Kitkowski, and I was in a long-term marriage to Gary Richardson, who is a chiropractor in our county of Shasta. He is a well-to-do chiropractor, and the courts allow him to be called Dr. Richardson, which the Board of Chiropractics doesn't allow that. They're either Gary Richardson, Dr. Chiropractic, or Gary Richardson, DC. He has 4 attorneys. I have none. I'm a pro per. And they identify him as Dr. Richardson, and it really makes him sound like he's a brain surgeon or something that's much more important than I am. They refuse to allow me attorney's fees. He has convinced the court that he has no money, even though the year I left him in 2003, he made $839,000, and I know for a fact he makes over $1 million a year, working 21 hours. Through that long-term marriage, I did, through the dissolution, was not given lifetime spousal support. I was involved in not only verbal, physical, mental, financial, sexual, and spiritual abuse by my ex-husband. He used my faith to keep me married to him, so I wasn't allowed to break the vows that I had to him until my pastor said God didn't mean for better, and worse and worse and worse. So I decided in 2003, when our daughter was 3, she was reacting to the abuse that he was causing in front of her with her in my arms. He suggested that my daughter was just reacting off of me and that I just needed to stop doing that. He has had multiple DVPA TROs, domestic violence restraining orders, temporary, most of the time because his attorney goes ahead and supersedes mine by writing the restraining order for me, saying he's my attorney, and then he leaves the yards away blank. So our meeting place was at the Reading Police Department, and he attacked me, and I called the police, and they came and they looked at the TRO and said, sorry, it says nothing on the yards away. And I said, well, the spirit of a restraining order is to stay away. And it said, sorry. Well, in the meantime, all the abuse was behind closed doors, and he threw his hat off because he had to deal with people in pain and had to be happy, and so he took it out on me. And so in 2005, he actually assaulted me at a fireworks show that was my day, but he had my daughter. My daughter saw me, ran up to me, gave me a hug. He came over, tried to twist my arm off, and that then caused permanent reflex symptomatic dystrophy in my right arm, causing me to be permanently disabled. After that happened, he was arrested for assault and battery on a non-cohabitating spouse, and he was criminally charged with that. I was then given a criminal 160, which is like a restraining order, but it holds even more weight. At that time, I said, fine, arrest him on his criminal 160, and his family law attorney, who is a judge, a mediator, and taught law school at USC, had gone into the criminal arena and wrote personal peaceful exchange. So they again said it was okay. They full frontaled me and attacked me with my daughter in my hands. So the police don't even care about that part of it. Unfortunately, I've been brought up on multiple contempt charges, and they're very ludicrous, like taking my daughter to the emergency room with asthma that she's had since she was born, and since he's a chiropractor, he believes that children that are adjusted don't get asthma. He believes that I'm omnipotent enough to convince respiratory therapists, doctors, emergency room technicians to give her inhalers. So he gets up on the stand and says, my daughter doesn't have asthma, so I'm contempted. My daughter doesn't have this, so I'm contempted. So they brought me up on 27 counts, and then they lowered it to 5 each, but then they did a smear campaign for me saying, she's crazy, she's lost her mind, she's sick in the head, and she does all this kind of stuff. Look, 27 contempts. And unfortunately, after that, my daughter found inappropriate pictures. Gary Richardson is an alcoholic. He's never made his amends. He is a pornographer viewer, and especially rape, and he used to rape me and sodomize me as well. And he it's very difficult. So by his own admission in court, even, he'd have an excuse to say, well, we already talked about the rape, and it's okay for me to sleep with our daughter because the court says so. But he continued to bring up the contempt course problems. My daughter found in his bathroom, we had an issue when we were married. We never even stayed. We didn't even consummate the marriage. And he had magazines that weren't appropriate. And my daughter found them in his house. And she tore out the pictures and came to me for my visitation, which I had originally 100%, then 75%, and then the fatal day when they said, you don't love your daughter if you don't give 50%, and if you don't give 50%, you're going to have nothing. So I gave up my 100%, well, 75%, and I have now come to grips with that God has placed mercy on me. I did what I thought was best because I didn't want to lose her. So on that day, I called up CPS, and they said, go to the police department. We have sheriffs that are out of town and Reading police that are in town. I texted him. They called Reading police, said where I was going to be and that my daughter was going to be interrogated. And so they talked to my daughter, and then they talked to me, and then they said they would do a welfare check, and they would go take her from his possession and take the pictures. So I believed in the system, and I let her go home that night. And when I got there, he called and said I was late, even though he knew I was late. And the next day, she got in trouble for stealing. They didn't go out and check for the pictures or anything, and they threw me in jail for they did not read my Miranda rights. They didn't tell me what I was there for. I suffer from PTSD. They cuffed me in my hands like this. They roughed me up. They strip searched me in front of a male judge and a male prisoner, and then they took me in another room and did it again, and they ripped my hair out, and they locked me in a solitary confinement, and I had PTSD, and I was on the floor, and I was scared. And I hadn't seen my daughter in 55 days because he had taken off with her, and I didn't even know where she was. And that was the day I was supposed to see her. So a young man came out, and he said, you're doing the right thing. And I said, well, right thing. And he said, you're paying your price. And I go, I didn't do anything. I don't even know why I'm here. So he went and looked it up, and he came back, and he said, shh, don't tell anybody. And he said, we're going to set you free. And then they opened the door and gave me my clothes and my shoes and treated me with respect and said, just don't tell anybody what happened. By that time, it was 5 o'clock. And I wasn't allowed to see my daughter. So my daughter's therapist said, you are the worst mother in the whole world because your daughter was dressed in horse clothes and everything. She wanted to see you, and you just didn't. I said, you don't understand. I just got out of jail. And she did not believe that story. So it was a very harsh lesson in the justice system that I was not going to be helped in that fact. So again, he continued to smear campaign me. So then they had contempted me twice. On the third time, they asked that I go to prison. And I told my public defender to go ahead and take it to the box, which means take it to a jury trial, because I knew 12 of my peers would not send me to prison for protecting my daughter. 5 years later, I was sanctioned for $6,000 in attorney's fees on that particular thing, and I have evidence showing that I was released in the interest of justice. I've never had CPS called on me. There's no police reports on me. There's no anything. There's declarations by his second wife who left with nothing, that my daughter is being abused. CPS went and talked to my ex-husband, and they said he had bad parental behavior but they didn't do anything, and they didn't talk to my daughter at all. So in 2007 is when they took what's called draconian measures, and that just takes the child completely out of the life of the other parent. In Shasta County, we do not have court reporters. You have to pay for them. They're $600. I live on $800 a month, which is 200% below poverty line. I've lost everything. So thank God that day was supposed to be about division of assets. It ended up being my daughter, and they decided to take her away on draconian measures. And they didn't find parental alienation. They didn't find coaching. They didn't find anything. They couldn't find anything. And what they ended up saying was a 7-year-old does not say the words appropriate and inappropriate. However, my ex had accused my boyfriend's son of touching my daughter. I was raped as a child. I wanted to break generational chains off. That's why I left my ex-husband. She knows what appropriate and inappropriate touches are, and it didn't matter. They chose to say it's because a 7-year-old did not, even though I taught her sign language before she was born. I'm a highly educated woman. My ex-husband is not stupid either, in some ways. And basically, they took her away for that reason, and for the fact that she needs to learn to love her dad more. And that's not me talking. That is directly on the correspondence. And to me, that was an experiment. You don't take somebody and take away their mother just so they can learn to love their father more. And I stayed at home with her, and we showed horses, and she was the youngest to qualify for youth nationals, and she was cheering, and she was doing everything that I did, and not out of force. She's just so much like me. And so they took her, and she didn't get to come home. She didn't get to say goodbye. She didn't get to nothing. She got no clothes. She got no nothing, and I didn't get to see her. And then finally, after that 55 days came, I had to pay $150 to see her for an hour. 33 and a half hours. I've seen her since 2007. And every day I just have to pray for the highest good of all, and I'm so grateful to be here. I'm the chapter leader of CPPA in Shasta County and around surrounding areas. Connie Valentine asked me to run that chapter, and I went down to Dr. Phil with her and worked with Kathleen Russell and Barbara Kaufman. So that's been really nice. And I guess I feel discriminated in our county. It's a good old boys club as well. And I'm female. I'm Native American. I don't think they know that. I'm a Pacific Islander as well. Some people think I don't look white. I don't know if that's necessarily the problem, but I am very outspoken. I speak on TV, I speak on radio, and I have been retaliated by having massacre of a pig in my yard and blood thrown on my horses. I've had 2 horses killed, 2 dogs killed. I've had knives left in my barn. You name it, I've been retaliated. But there's nothing worse in this world, and nobody could ever hurt me more than by taking my baby away from me.